Aloha, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for C3 Converse presented by Nielsen. My name is Shannon Sarikaku, and I'm the guest service coordinator for this 36th edition of the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival, presented by Visual Communications. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors for making this festival possible. And I'd also like to invite everyone to our after party tonight. It's a Halloween Tiningo time at 5 p.m. and we hope you can join us. We're dropping the link in the chat for that now. I'm very excited for our next artist discussion. And our moderator, Jeremy Aguilera-Gaudet, was born and raised in Maine, but has called Los Angeles home for the past 15 years. After 17 years managing movie theaters, Jeremy now works at Film Independent in the International Programs Department. This is Jeremy's 4th year with LAAPFF, and he's still thrilled to be part of the amazing team. Folks, please welcome Jeremy Aguilera-Gaudet.
Great, thank you, Shannon. Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you again to the Los Angeles Asian Pacific Film Festival, produced by Visual Communications. My name is Jeremy. I'm a programmer for the festival, and I'm zooming to you all from downtown LA. But I first want to recognize that I'm on land actually belonging to the Tongva people. If you would like closed captioning for today's session, we're dropping the link in the chat now. Click on it, and you'll be brought to a new window, which will open the audio transcript. Thanks to everyone that helped make this festival possible, and thank you to our community partner organizations for your valuable work and for continuing to support Visual Communications. A special shout out to Pacific Island Ethnic Art Museum, which is celebrating their 10th anniversary this month, and to the Hawaiian Inter Club Council of Southern California. Now let's start our artist conversation. I'd like my panelists today to please turn on your camera, turn on your audio. Welcome, everyone. So I'm going to start by passing the mic. We'll start with Gerard. Please introduce yourself. Let us know your name, where you're zooming in from, and maybe something about how you got involved with the movie.
Sure. My name is Gerard Elmore. I am the cinematographer, director, producer on the project. It was an NMG network project in conjunction with Hawaiian Airlines. And sort of Hawaiian Airlines' big idea was to follow these very important people and see where it led. And that's kind of how I got involved with the project and how NMG got involved with the project. And I am in Hawaii at the moment. This is not really where I'm at. I'm in my bedroom, but I thought this was more impressive.
And Keanu, if you want to go next.
I think you said my name.
Keanu, yes, sorry.
Aloha, my name is Keanu Kaupu, and I'm the kumu of Halau Hi'iakai na Makalehua. Right now we're in beautiful Oahu in Honolulu, in the Lehua Grove. What is my involvement in the film? I'm one of the kumu hula that contributed to the film Huakaʻi. While I'm not one of the employees of Hawaiian Airlines, the other kumu hula who is not here, who is actually at Hawaiian Airlines working right now, he is one of the trainers at Hawaiian Airlines. Luckily, we get to go along. So mahalo nui for having us.
Awesome.
Awesome. Taija, would you like to go next?
Aloha, my name is Taija, use Kaluhio Kalani. I dance under the direction of Kumu Keanu Kaupu and Lono Padilla for Halau Hi'iakai na Makalehua. And I am their haumana that just so happened to be featured as well in this film.
Fantastic. And Tao, last but not least.
Aloha, my name is Tawari'i Nahalea Marama, and I am on Oahu currently, and my involvement with the film is I am a dancer, a hula dancer. I dance for Kaleo Lakai Kahiki no Kala, and I'm also an employee for Hawaiian Airlines, and so it's just a great opportunity to be involved in this amazing project, to branch, in my case, both where I work and my passions, and to bring that into a documentary form was just an amazing opportunity.
Fantastic. Well, welcome. Thank you all so much for joining us. We're really excited that you're here today. So Gerard, I'll start with you, and you sort of actually answered part of my question. So, you know, the genesis of this project, it sounds like it was a Hawaiian Airlines generated project, and it seems like based on people that work for them. So I guess how did the project get to you and Hawaiian Airlines involvement?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a really cool project, because normally when Hawaiian Airlines asks for a project, people would assume that it'd be a commercial of some sort. And right away, if you are going into this specific subject and journey, uh, you have to go into it not with that mindset. It is, you follow them on the journey, and you're not going to be plugging anything. It needs to be absolute. You know, the story is more important than what they're trying to sell. And the good thing is Hawaiian totally understood that. They just wanted to tell a good story. They just wanted to follow three of their employees that so happen to be Hawaiian hula rock stars. And through that, we met these other rock stars that are part of the story. And of course, from there, the story becomes much bigger than just the employees, right? It becomes the story of Merrie Monarch. It becomes the story of Auntie Luana and what she puts together every year, and becomes the massive amount of work that goes into Merrie Monarch, and not just Merrie Monarch, but to do good hula, and the art and craft that goes into it, and the heart and soul that goes into it. And so Hawaiian Airlines gave us a blank check to pretty much tell the story as it's supposed to be told. And they reached out to NMG Network, where I work at, and we were a ragtag team that was kind of assembled to do this. And Keanu will tell you, but it was like they're on a train that was already moving, going very fast, and we had to run to catch up to get on that train. And they weren't going to stop for anything, and they were not going to redo anything for us. We were just lucky to be there in the right time and space to capture what we captured.
Nice. That's really amazing that they sort of gave you that you were able to sort of say, we need to do what we need to do. And they agreed to it as a corporation, as a company. You know, we definitely don't always hear those kind of stories from people working with companies.
Right.
So I want to start sort of something that opened the movie, which was quite interesting to me. And then if this was sort of the standalone story, it probably would have come towards the end. But Keanu, I want to talk to you about your decision to shut down your program. You talked about it at the beginning, and you felt that you just really needed to stop and maybe take a breather and sort of rebuild it. So I wanted to talk about, I think that's a really brave decision to make. I mean, I don't know many people that would just be like, yeah, I'm going to shut down everything right now and take a breather. But I think it's great that you did it. So I wanted to talk about, you know, maybe some opposition you had to it, sort of the thought process leading up to it, and how you did it in a way that proved it's successful and that this can be done.
Sure. Mahalo nui for that. I don't think that a lot of people like to admit stuff like that, but it's part of our infrastructure in Hawaii. I mean, from the land, that's what the land does. It flourishes, and then another lava flow comes and creates more land. It doesn't just destroy it; it creates more land. And so the philosophy that sometimes when things aren't working the way that it's supposed to, no matter what you put into it, no matter how much you till the soil, no matter how much you plant the seeds, no matter how much you water them, they get weed rot. And for all kinds of reasons. What do you need to do? You need to dig up that whole garden. You need to, we call it hulihia, where there is complete and total destruction in order for you to rebuild, reinvigorate, re-energize. And at that particular time, our halal was kind of going through a hulihia where both Lono and I didn't feel like people were taking their kuleana or their responsibilities seriously. For just the general operation of halau, we also didn't feel like some of our students were or continue to be aligned with what our philosophies on hula were. And so there was a tipping point, and it had to do with Merrie Monarch. I'll be really honest with you, that we decided to do, okay, let's do a audition for Merrie Monarch. And we had like 150 women in the halau that were eligible, right? Age, skill, well, I would say we had about 80 people skill wise, but eligible. And we make this audition, and 9 people showed up. 9 people showed up for one of the important things that this halau is a part of. And the reason why Merrie Monarch is something that is so important to us is because I grew up with Merrie Monarch. I'm from Hilo. It's part of the fabric of where I come from. And Lono and I danced in Merrie Monarch from when we were, teenagers, and or in my case, preteen. As soon as I could, I was on the stage, and so it was important for me. And in halau, for the kumu, it's really important that the students align themselves as such, or else they don't belong there. Yeah. And that was a huge, not even slap in the face, it was a huge punch in the gut, and almost felt like a stab in the back. And I think Taija can attest, because she was one of the 9 that showed up. And out of those maybe 80 girls that could have, 3 were return dancers. Only 3. That means out of all those other girls who have done Merrie Monarch before, 3 of them. And so we knew that there was some kind of deficiency somewhere. And we feel like we give our 7,000% to our students. And like I said, it felt like a punch in the gut. And so we needed to figure out why maybe we need to do some weeding. And it kind of tipped us over the edge, and we said, you know what, we shutting it down. So we closed halau, sent everybody, and did it in a way that now you feel how we feel. Yeah, we did it by email. There was no in person. We did it by email because nobody had the decency to even call us and let us, and we invited everybody that was eligible. So 3 people from the year before. There were 3 there were 5 brand new people that just joined halau, not even a year. And we actually had one person in the makuahinip class, or the mother's class, and that was even more of, it was embarrassing for us. It was a very embarrassing experience that, these newer people were looking at us and these other dancers like, where is everybody? This cannot be it. And then the 3 dancers, like Taija, I felt so hurt for them, because they put in, their 300%. And to think that, wow, my hula sisters, wow, that nobody showed up, nobody, not even the same line as the year prior. So we felt like there was a deficiency, and maybe the deficiency was in us. And so we need, number one, we need to close it down. We and uproot everything, and take a look at the plants, take a look at the farmers, those who are cultivating, and really take a step back, because we cannot just blame them. We have to also be accountable. And so that's what we did. And the funny thing is that we did this, or not the funny, it really wasn't funny. We did this about a month before our 10th year anniversary celebration, which was a huge, like $70,000, you know, all these hundreds of people coming to celebrate the halal that just closed. And so we didn't think about that. We didn't think about that. It wasn't until after, you know, talking to our kumu, our source, that we were like, uh-oh, like, what are we gonna do? You know? And so our teacher, our source, she laid it down, just like how we laid it down on our students. She laid it down on us, and she told us, you open up that kupuna class, or that elder class, you open up the keiki class, because they didn't do anything wrong. Yeah, if you're upset with the wahine class, you close them and you never open them ever again, and that's fine. But these other people looking upon you for guidance, for inspiration, for insight, for hula. So you cannot do that to them. And immediately, just like an obedient child, like, okay. So 2 weeks later, you know, we invited the kupuna, the men, and our kids back. And we kept the wahine closed. From there, however, we carefully weeded out the people that we felt for some time now have not shown the responsibility, have not taken advantage of the privilege that hula gives you, and that being a student gives you, have not been aligned with us. It was a great time for some people to leave as well, and they did. You know, we went from 250 people to about 190 in the halal. And I can say within the next month, it was, you know, working up to the 10-year anniversary, because we had to do it now. We realized it was a breath of fresh air. It really was. You know, you got out the toxic, and I'm not just saying toxic students, but also the toxicity that we build inside when we're in that kind of environment. So we really had to clear our environment, replant these trees or reestablish them, and it's been such a blessing. And has it been perfect? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But that group that you saw on the film on Huakaʻi really was a driving force for us, really was a great deal of inspiration for us to continue. And in the mainstream and visually, they allowed us to continue. And that's
yeah, I mean, it's sort of, you know, it's tough when you have to sort of make that decision, but it sounds like that it did work out in the long run. And maybe Taija, maybe you can speak to your experience about maybe being part of this process and then being on the other side and training with them on your way to Merrie Monarch. I kind of also want to get your, as a performer, your view of like the rehearsal process and the training that's involved in the discipline that's required to get to that level.
Sure. I'll just start back to what he was explaining with that whole shutdown. Speaking as a dancer, speaking as one of the 9 wahine that were present, and having to literally look around and see like this is it. For me, you know, people have a lot of things going on within their lives. That's, you know, with everybody, everyone has their own responsibilities. But the responsibility that you have as a haumana was to show up, and plenty of people didn't do that. But irregardless, that wasn't stopping me from continuing to move forward with what we were planning on doing already. And that was prepare for Merrie Monarch. So with Kumu Keano and Kumu Lono allowing us to, with shutting down and then allowing us to come back and just keep moving forward, then we started to actually dig into that process of Kulihia. And that was what our mele was about that year, which was a good choice, because we had a new line of girls that a lot of us, we didn't dance enough with. We didn't have enough experience with. We had to kind of learn and rekindle, like reconnect with them, because a lot of these girls, they were new, fairly new. And so that was a learning experience within us as dancers. And then there's the process of having to, I guess, work hard and day in and day out, you know, work hard as dancers to create a bond and create one unit that moves as one, that can, how do I say it? That can represent and present the vision that our kumus had for that year. And it's an honor already to be able to, for them to be able to allow us to on that journey with them. And so as a student and as a dancer, that's what our responsibility was to present our kumu's vision on that stage. Was it easy? Nope. You know, dancers work hard every single day. Not just the physical aspect, there's so many more aspects that tie into it. There's the intellectual aspect, learning your mele. What is your mele about? What do these words mean? Then internalizing it spiritually. And that's a process within itself. And it's a process that takes time. So it took months leading up to the competition. And then you get to the nitty gritty, just hard work every single day, pounding the pavement, just hard work of the long hours in practices, getting yelled at, no water breaks, you know, sometimes he flies things, sometimes he doesn't. It depends on how we do, honestly. It depends on how we do. But that's the process. And a lot of people don't get to see that process. So that's why I'm very thankful that KA HUAKAʻI was made, because it gives people a different perspective, and it kind of opens the doors a little bit to what is really going on behind the scenes. People don't get to see. And people see the final presentation of everything coming together for that one moment on that stage that lasts 7 minutes. But they don't get to see the process and the hard work, the sacrifices, the struggle that it took 7 months, 8 months prior. And so that was a beautiful thing to see. And Kumu wants to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to also add that that was one of my prerequisites with Gerard, is show the real thing. You know, show the real thing. It gets much more real than what was there, but there are some limitations that we knew that we had to follow. But show the real thing. Don't butter it up. I don't want you to portray me as this, you know, fairy godmother type of deal. Like, if Elphaba I am, then Elphaba I will be. And, but show the real deal. I yell, I scream, I throw things. My dancers work hard, not just my dancers. In the the movie, you can kind of see like Tau folks, they are the way that they are because they work hard. Same thing with Auntie Momi and Keli Ika Apuni Honua and all the rest of the halau. So show the real deal, show the work, and not just of the kumu. Show the work of the students because they do the work. They do the at our point in our lives, we're done with that. That's no longer our responsibility. And so give credit where credit is due. Yes, the source is the kumu, but you know, those blue collar workers, that's the dancers. They're doing all that manual labor. And so yeah, you know, even going back to Taija, during that time being one of those 9 girls that showed up, that's the first rule, is show up. Being one of those 9 dancers, showing her commitment and her loyalty, that was before she even found out she was running for Miss Aloha Hula. Yeah, so there was no there was no reason why, other than that's my responsibility. There was no other reason that she showed up other than she's a haumana. This is where we need them. And really, those 3 girls especially, all 9 of them, but the 3 girls especially, really pushed us through, you know, through not just Merrie Monarch, but even past that, and really showed us, well, who is really, or who are we indebted to, really.
And I think the film definitely does a really great job of showing sort of that behind the scenes look. Because yeah, it is always fascinating looking at behind the scenes of sort of any type of live performance thing. Because you see, yeah, you're right, you see 7 minutes of it, and then but there's years and years of work, you know, that goes on behind it. How I wanted to ask you a question about sort of something you mentioned in the film, a little bit of your philosophy. Is for you, hula is more than just movements. You talk about it like in sort of, you have to envision where you are. And I was wondering if you could elaborate more on that and how that philosophy and how that all processes together to meld with your movement while you're dancing.
For sure. As everyone else, even as kumu Keanu and kumu Lono, who you know were hula dancers themselves, and Taija, that we all definitely know what, as far as responsibility, what we have to do. And part of the process as a haumana is when you're being passed all this knowledge and all this ike that your kumu has learned from his past kumus. It's such a privilege and an honor to do your best at delivering everything that you can to the best of your ability of what your kumu wants from you as a person, from you as a hula practitioner. And so with that, being able to internalize and to understand as much as you can what you are dancing, why you are dancing, for who, what are you honoring, all that comes into play for you to become the vessel of the story that is being, you know, portrayed and being shared with the world. I mean, we are trying. I mean, we have our bodies. You know, we have our accessories, our costumes. Even we have the oli, we have our chant, we have our hula. We have as much as we can to put together to share with the viewer, to bring them to where we are, and to paint that whole picture. And so that's why it's so important to really know everything you can of what you're going to be delivering, because you're able to go ahead and share that to the viewer, and you know, hopefully you guys are able to become one with us, to be in that place, to be in that space, and to understand what exactly we are, you know, what message we're trying to get across.
And I think the film, I liked how it sort of also played with that idea a little bit. Gerard, like in the editing, I'm curious when you decided you would do this, is you showed them performing in their stage space, but then cut to the performers in different environments. Maybe they're more natural environments or whatever, where they're dancing. And I'm wondering how that came about in the filming process.
Out of necessity, because Mary Monarch didn't allow us to film the actual performances, which is like the first meeting that I had, and I kept hammering Hawaiian Airlines about. I was like, what can I shoot at Mary Monarch? Can I shoot like outside of it? Can I shoot like, I was just going through the list of everything that I can, and they're pretty much, no, you can't do anything. So after kind of thinking about it, I was like, well, they're talking about the Aina, they're talking about the environment. So it would make sense. And since the dance that is performed in Mary Monarch is a dance that is perfected and it becomes muscle memory, you could take that dance and put it in the environment that they're speaking of. So then that's kind of where that idea came from. So it's like tying it all together. Yes, they're performing at Mary Monarch, but it's ultimately connecting it back to the story of the dance. And with Tao, we just picked kind of a nice, beautiful backdrop, and we went out and I think we reshot it. And this is going to be funny stories. And Kamalani and Leimomi's section was just something we captured on their journey and something they were already going to do. With Taija and Keanu and Lono, they weren't going to do, that specific journey. And so what I did is I showed Tao's piece of it to Keanu and Lono. I said, that's what I want to do. And it would just make sense. And it would also complete the journey if we went to Waipio Valley, because that's where Taija's kupuna are from. And it would just, and that's kind of like where her genealogy kind of goes back to. So we just wanted to kind of tie it all together in that nice way. And so I had to prod a little bit for that. But I thought it just, for me, it's what the movie's about, and I felt like it was important that we did that.
Yeah, it definitely works really well. And I always love a good filmmaker story when something like that happens, because you are almost forced to think creatively and think, if they hadn't, maybe you wouldn't have gone that route if Mary Monarch was like, yeah, sure, film off when you want. I want to sort of keep on talking, building on what Tao said and sort of this philosophy behind dancing. And in Kamalani's section, there's a point where Kuma Leimomi is sort of yelling at the dancers about expression. She says, maybe they did good, they did well, but their expression is just awful. And without the expression, you have nothing. So why are you doing this? So to anyone who would like to elaborate on that, and what is it about the expression that seems to really make these hula dances?
Okay, I'll go then. That's part of your job as a dancer, is to, like I said, to bring you with us, to take you with us where we are in our in that space, that time. The only way you can do that is to move them with emotion, and not just expression. Anybody can make a face, anybody can smile. One of the judges once, I've seen in a score sheet, saying smile is not an emotion, smiling is not an expression. And to a simple mind, you're like, huh? But when you're talking about hula, which is trying to convey the intent of the poser through the mele and then through the dancer, you have to be able to move your audience, and remembering that you always have audience. Yeah, even if you're dancing in a room by yourself, you always have audience, seen or unseen. Yourself and your own emotions is your own audience. And so how can you make someone feel something or get someone engaged in your dance if you're not feeling anything? Yeah, everything can be so put into a nice box and have everything so technically sound, but if it's not moving, it's ineffective. Yeah, I think movies do the same thing, right? I mean, you can be technically absolute and perfect, but if the actors don't draw your attention, or scenery doesn't draw your attention, or music, the aspects within the movie, nobody's going to want to watch it, no matter how perfect your script is, or how great, or how great of a reputation the actors are. So our hula needs to move our audience. Yeah, and for us, nature is also our audience. The natural world is our audience. We need to be able to move our environment. That's diving in a little bit into the more spiritual, emotional aspect, but I believe that if I'm dancing about a win, I should be able to make that win come here. Yeah, I should be able to do that, and I can't do that if I use this to my students, this term, you're a moving carcass. Like, don't be a moving carcass, just a shell of a person that is just, you're not a puppet. Um, have some substance. Move me. That's what I want you to do when I'm assessing my dancers, is move me.
That's great. I really like what you said about even if you're dancing alone, you're still dancing for someone. That's a fantastic takeaway. Taija, if you want to talk about expression too, but I also am curious about being in the Merrie Monarch. Kamalani, I thought, said something great, is she does it and she feels that it like really helps perpetuate her culture. And I was curious if you feel the same way, and just sort of what being a part of that yearly tradition means to you.
Can y'all hear me? Is that okay? Okay. Sorry, my audio is weird. So Merrie Monarch is something that has been happening for the past almost 50 years, right? It happens every single year. That's what hula practitioners, hula people, we all look forward to every single year. As a kid growing up, I was so excited every time April came around, because I knew it was Merrie Monarch week. I knew it was gonna be Merrie Monarch. Kids growing up here and knowing that Merrie Monarch was so important to Hawaii and to the hula community and to Hawaiians, that's what we did. We were just glued to the TV. And I can say that Merrie Monarch in itself has helped elevate hula, and it has helped, it's helped bring everybody together, because when you look at Merrie Monarch week, there's so much else that's going on throughout that week, not just the competition, but there's the craft fairs, there are performances, there's hula taking place, there's the vendors that can showcase their lei making and their ipus, their supplies that they've made. And there's just, it's a culmination of just bringing people together to do Hawaiian things. And I think that's something that's so special, and that takes place every single year. So, yeah.
That sounds nice. Tao, same question for you.
Exactly what Taija said. It is, as we've said, it is the Olympics, of the hula world. So to an extent, it has its own views on it, but stripping that competitiveness about it, it is just what we just do as is. The difference is now we're just showcasing it on stage, and and with that, like it's an amazing experience that, you know, as an individual, as a collective, like we're able to share as much as we can of who we are, and not only within our community, but to the world. And so, you know, you have that level of wanting to do your best and bring your best, and it's all fun and games as far as in a competitive state, but we all understand each other as far as between halaus, between kumus, between hamanas, that we, you know, we're doing it all for the same purpose, even though it is in a competition setting. The bottom line is we're doing it all for one reason, and the same reason, that is. And so for the outsiders, for the viewers to be able to see that as well is very important for us as hula practitioners, because aesthetically, they see the tip of the iceberg. They see that competition, 7 minutes of it, you know. But that's why this documentary was so important for all of us. It was because it brought you underneath of the water, which is, you know, 2/3 of everything. You just saw the tip of the iceberg, but for you to know, oh my gosh, like it's not just learn a dance and showcase it and, you know, present it. It's so much more. So for everyone to kind of, for even local people who may only know, you know, so much about what hula is about, everyone, what we can say for sure that everyone, especially in Hawaii, like we all look forward to this, because if you're not doing it, you know, it's your cousin, it's your brother, it's your family, you know, at least someone who's performing, and for this, that level of support in itself is amazing. But then for you to kind of draw them in as far as a deeper state of what we're doing is a whole nother level of awesomeness for us as hula practitioners. So this is a great opportunity that comes every year, once a year. And, you know, the energy is so awesome. Everyone, Hilo is alive, you know, once a year. And it's everyone that comes together and it brings that energy. It's such an amazing feeling. And I'm sure I can imagine as far as Olympics go, like the real Olympics, you know, when athletes come every 4 years together into one setting, you know, the energy that's there, everyone is just, the energy of the camaraderie of everyone is in that one space. So it's awesome that we get to have that as far as our own, you know, Hawaii part of it every year, once a year. So it's awesome. And I want to just kind of go back real fast on expressions. That's one of my, I mean, there's so many favorites, and there's so many, everything is awesome as far as your responsibility as a hula dancer. But one of my things that I love the most is expressions. I love to be able to internalize what you're taught and to regurgitate it back, and to see if you're able to see and feel what I had just, you know, learned, to be that vessel. And so yes, it is crucial. I mean, as Kumu said, it is crucial. Like we, even in our halau, I mean, my kumu kaleo is just, he pounds like it. If you're a dead carcass, like Kumu said, like, you know, it's nothing. It's not. You're just a dead carcass. You're just moving body. But when you bring the emotions to it, that's when you can capture the audience, the viewer, and really bring them in. And to be able to master that, to be able to perfect that, to be able to form that skill is challenging. But once you internalize it, it's not challenging, you know. So that's when, you know, your kumu's like, okay, yeah, you learned it, but you're not really getting what I'm saying, are you? You know, like that kind of stuff. So it's really crucial as a hawana to be able to deliver expressions, which I love.
Right. Makes sense. I want to build upon sort of what you talked about. We were talking about a little earlier about the performing in front of an audience and the energy. You know, we're in a very difficult year right now. Things changed very quickly, and you know, your live performances have been canceled and et cetera. How are you guys as the community dealing with the pandemic and rehearsal and sort of keeping the spirit going, which has been very tough for all of us? I don't know if Kumu Keanu, if you want to start with that.
Oh, Lou, that that's an easy question. It's horrible. It's horrible. It's horrible, horrible, horrible. Virtual teaching is horrible. I hate it, hate it, hate it. But that's what we have. And I have learned to appreciate it tremendously. And so for us, going back to Merry Monarch, our lines got cut a month into 2020 Merry Monarch, and for a good few weeks you just walk around like a zombie. There's all this adrenaline, all this work that is going on, and all of a sudden it stops, and you then become that moving carcass where everything just drains out of you, um and not really understanding exactly why, because at that particular time in March everything was somewhat uncertain. You see what's going on around the world, but it hasn't really caught up with Hawaii yet, and then it catches up really quickly. And so everything just stops, your whole world, because you put your 300% of your energy into Merry Monarch. And for a few months, I'd say at least for 3 months, you're living that focus for Merry Monarch. And again, your lifeline just gets cut off. At the time, Zoom wasn't a big thing for hula people, so it was absolutely new. Google Classroom and all these other virtual platforms were new, and so we had to figure out, how are we going to do this? How are we going to actually just teach, because we were put in quarantine or stay-at-home orders, and so we don't even have connection with our students. So we kind of had to figure out how Zoom works, how Google Classroom works, best ways we can utilize Facebook and all these other virtual platforms. I think we've got a hold on it a little bit now, to the point where it's kind of just normal that when class time comes, we log on. I would say the first 2 months, hated it. Like, I was like, we cannot continue to do this, like there is no way. But then you stop using virtual platforms, and then you realize, what are we going to do? Are we going to put ourselves and our students and their families and our communities at risk by meeting? No, we can't do that. That's detrimental not only to our communities, our families, ourselves, but it's detrimental to our cultural practice. If without us, who's going to perpetuate, carry on, practice this cultural practice? So we got to first take care of our bodies and our minds, and so that's what we did. We stuck with Zoom, and now I'm teaching 16 classes a week, 11 for halal, and then other classes for in academia, as well as our halal in Japan. It did, however, give us an opportunity to go that route, and now we see our Japan students once a week, when we usually had seen them every 3 or 4 months, or sometimes 6 months when we go to Japan. Now we can see them every week, and we never thought that was possible. I always said, I will never teach on video. I will never be a video kumu hula. We don't even allow people to record in the halal. And now, this is all we got. Now I'm eating all my words.
Yeah, it's really interesting how I think there was that 2 months of just learning and adjusting, and then now this is just what we do now. We meet and interact and talk and learn and teach all on Zoom. I do want to say I learned a lot from watching this movie, and also a deeper appreciation and understanding, of like Hawaiian culture. I don't know if you caught it in the beginning. I'm from Maine. So when history class ever talked about Hawaii, it was the only within the context of U.S. Colonization. And then, of course, what's worse is what Hollywood puts out is just never, or rarely, if ever, a authentic representation of hula and the culture. So what are you hoping, Gerard? I can start with you. What are you hoping the audience, a non-native Hawaiian, and specifically maybe even a white audience, gets out of this movie, and what do you hope they understand better?
That's a good question. For me, it's a pretty emotional trip because I am not from here, but I grew up mostly here. So I'm kind of in this weird place because I'm actually Guatemalan, and I'm a super minority here. Minority everywhere and minority here. But I've really grown to embrace the culture here, and I feel like this is where I belong. And I don't even know my culture that much, my personal culture, but I've embraced the Hawaiian culture. And I did not know anything that happened in Merrie Monarch or what happened beforehand. I jumped into this not knowing anything. And so we shot it and created it as if we were going to show and make people feel what it's like to be there. I was going into it that mindset. I'm seeing this for the first time. What can we shoot, or how can we tell it, and that people are feeling what we are feeling? We're crying, we're getting emotional. We are feeling, the hard work. We're seeing the hard work. How can we have people feel the same way, and make sure that people know that this isn't just a pretty dance? That means much more than just a 7-minute dance. It means community. It means aloha aina. It means so much more than just that. It is. They say it all the time. Hula is life, and I came out knowing that is everything, right? And it touches everything about our wonderful, beautiful place that we live in. And my soul is forever touched. And I hope when people watch it, they understand what it means, for people who live here, that it's not just coming here and enjoying your trip, but respecting the culture and the people who live here.
A great answer. And we're nearing the end, so I definitely wanted to give anyone a chance to let the audience know how can they support the film, any social media, but also how can they continue to support the Hulaus, Merrie Monarch, just anything you want to make sure gets out there. Gerard.
Okay,
you can start talking. You can talk about how to support the film.
Yeah, next stop is Hawaii International Film Festival. After this film festival, please watch it here first. Absolutely, this is your first chance to see it, and then Hawaii International Film Festival. Please support all the people that are part of the film. We need to support more than that ever before because of COVID. And when Merrie Monarch is back, we're gonna love Auntie Luana so much and make sure she's embraced, because she also puts her soul into this every year. So please, everyone, support just hula in general. And when it's back, come see it live. When it's safe.
Right. Definitely would love to do that soon when we can all start traveling again safely. Thank you all for joining us this afternoon. It was a really, really great talking to you. It was a really great conversation. Thanks everyone at home for joining. And again, don't forget, this film is viewable now. Watch it. You have until the end of Saturday night. And if you enjoyed this conversation and the festival as a whole, please consider donating to Visual Communications. Your support helps sustain our year-round programming and operations. Go to vcmedia.org for more info. Follow us on all the social media accounts at VC Film Festival. And if you do post anything, tag us at LAAPFF 2020. And stick around for the next conversation. Director Christopher Kahunahana will be talking about his film Waikiki. So thanks again to my panelists. I hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Aloha.
Bye, everyone.
You guys are
Thank you.
awesome. You guys are just the best.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.